So EC contention is add. Everyone ready? Extend his responses to the framework for him. We're looking to you till he's behind in the EC contention. He conceded the extinction scenario. Hugh says that he influences power, but they're still motivated to be imperialist. But the AC specifically shows it's domestic policies that allow them to come in and cause research action that's also only relevant under the AF framework, not the NEG framework. Then this says it justifies military intervention, but it's not needed. They always try to throw their weight around, but again, this is only relevant under my framework, not his. Extend Gonzalez to the North depleted southern resources, consuming 70% of the world's energy, but just 20% of the world's population. This requires appropriating southern resources, far from lifting all boats. The rise of tide bursts through the banks, leaving developing states with no resources. Extend buoyant northern looting, maximize the risk of extinction. Grasslands declining from overgrazing and forestry at a vast rate. Of research subject states caused by 2,100 humans will have consumed the entire biological product causing extinction. Buoyant outweighs on probability. A, the dissat has to go through multiple links, each with a less than guaranteed probability. Buoyance linked to extinction is inherent to the nature of research action. B, my arguments are based on physical, ecological science, which has the most direct link to physical impacts like extinction. The DD is based off social science and speculative political economic analysis, not used to make scientific claims like the existence of human life. C, it evaluates evidence and finds it overwhelming source claims more likely to be true than single authors to make random predictions. D, it directly cites the break of 2100 with an actual time frame. The impact is much more realistic because we can measure how close we are to actual extinction, which takes out a second response that the time frame is too long because at least his exact whereas his arguments are just floating in some like space-time continuum that don't have any clearly defined purpose. Off his first response that public populations control the resources. That doesn't mean it's going to be sustainable. It just means they're going to keep extracting the resources because they benefit from them. So that does not solve with Lincoln Boy, and nothing in the counterplan speaks to that. Extend Gonzalez 3, affirming let's develop solutions, track foreign-down exploitation, because top-down one-size-fits-all solution that ignore local conditions, increase injustice, legal redress from private harms, gives victim voice, decreasing inequality, so they stop the unsustainable resource extraction. Off the dissect. First, it's not unique. There's widespread instability in Africa today. Look at Sudan, look at the Congo, look at all these countries that have widespread conflicts and civil wars. He's going to say that his evidence is there's stability, but it doesn't contextualize what that stability actually means. 2, resource extraction causes states to use violence to maintain resources. Eric Bonds 1 writes. Governments who control natural resources may feel they have no choice but to use violence to protect their extraction activities, calling military conflict with groups that threaten resource extraction and violence to gain or maintain raw materials like oil or water. States might resort to military and enforce trade sanctions, proxy wars, or invasion to protect natural resources. Prefer this evidence because A, it identifies the causal warrant risk. His evidence just cites what authors' claims but doesn't actually explain why they're true. B, the evidence is on strength of empirical warrants. Bonds 2. We demonstrate an important empirical link between natural resources and armed violence using a National Research Council to connecting the extraction of 10 minerals to armed violence in the past 15 years. We supplement this with case studies and discuss violence associated with mining companies, which lets us empirically evaluate our theoretical model, address bias in the mineral data, and illustrate ways in which violence is associated with extraction. This also sells back to Harms because it proves that it's a specifically high quality study. He has a lot of 10 studies, but it doesn't matter because he doesn't qualify those studies are if they're good or not. He also doesn't specifically explain the problem. 3, turn. His evidence is that they will spend the oil revenues on militaries. He assumes that's going to mean peace, but probably just means they're going to use their new militaries to fight each other. That's what the Bonds evidence says. So his own empirical warrants support my conclusion. Then off the bottom where it says it turns case, no, it doesn't, because first he assumes there's complete collapse, but that means he'd have to win the dissent 100%. My arguments at least put risk on it. 2, it's not true because I defend all countries implementing the app, so even if they collapse, new ones would still have to protect the environment. Counterplan. Off slack 1. There's no solvency because there'll still be corruption. The ECA writes. It is, of course, one thing to express public participation in rights and formal instruments, and quite another to implement them effectively. There are quite fundamental challenges involved in their practical implementation. Among these are addressing the weight of existing power relations, especially in relation to marginalized and vulnerable groups, addressing deep-seated authority and elements of local cultures, reducing the resource constraints of public institutions, as well as those affected by concerned products with environmental implications. Prefer my evidence because it's specific to the context this counterplan is implemented and explains how the pre-existing corruption in developing countries mean the counterplan won't be able to solve. Off the urban implication. First, this says we need to participate in environmental policies. The app solves because it's environmental rights where people control their own participation. 2, hostility doesn't mean the counterplan, and the plan isn't going to solve completely. 3, it just means, this just means there needs to be participation, but I'm already taking out that link with the ECA app.